What's going on, guys? It's Attorney Gerald Griggs, a justice fighter, and I am here for the virtual march against voter suppression. And many of you marched to the polls, many of you voted, many civic engagement groups were mobilizing individuals to the polls, and we turned out in record numbers, in numbers that Georgia hadn't seen in a very long time, both for the November general election and then for the runoff for the senatorial seats. And we did it. We forced Georgia to listen to the voices of marginalized people, particularly brown and black, Asian individuals who all voted in record numbers. But of course, it wouldn't be Georgia unless they tried to drive us back. And so, under the color of night, representatives under the Gold Dome are trying to suppress the vote. They are introducing bill after bill after bill to try to drive us back and mute the voices of such Georgians that are coming to the forefront. And so that's the purpose of this virtual march. We would love to be with you in living color, marching as we have so many times before, whether that's the Women's March, whether that's the March for Black Lives, whether that's the March on Georgia, and so many other marches that we have had. But this is a virtual march, and the real reason is bills like the newest bill, which is House Bill 531. And this bill was dropped a few days ago. And this bill is 48 pages. And some of the things this bill would do would be to require license and ID numbers upon requesting an absentee ballot, limit mobile voting sites, allow election superintendents to limit the number of voting booths, limit the time frame for an absentee ballot application to only within 11 weeks before an election and no later than the last 2 Fridays before an election. Outlaw Sunday voting, which is an attack directly on souls to the polls. Shorten the time from when absentee ballot, mail ballots would be sent from 45 days to 25 days before the election. There will be no third-party agencies that can directly spend to help implement absentee voter applications. Restrict drop box locations to early voting locations only in early voting hours, during only early voting hours. Supervised drop boxes, possibly with law enforcement. And that's just some of what was in that 48-page bill that was dropped a few days ago. But there are also 41 other bills, some of which want to limit or fully prevent absentee voting. Some which require 2 forms of identification for absentee ballot requests, even though there's already in Georgia law the need to have an absentee ballot to show your ID. But they want you to have to print that ID out and send that ID off. And of course, that disenfranchises our marginalized communities, many of which suffering from wealth inequality and an inability to have access to technology to do that. And so these are just some of the things that they're doing. It's akin to poll taxes. It's again akin to the earlier forms of voter suppression that have happened in the past, and it's all because of the decision that was made by the Supreme Court, Holder versus Shelby County, which of course gutted the Voting Rights Act. So it's important that we stand up in the spirit of our ancestors, Brother John Lewis, who fought so long and so hard to make sure we had our voting rights. Brothers like Dr. C.T. Vivian, who was also influential, and of course, Dr. King. So we're having a march, and we're educating and empowering individuals, and I am proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with you in this push to make sure that we protect our voting rights here in Georgia. So we are here to march virtually, but I also beg and plead for you to contact your local elected officials, both in the Georgia Senate and the House of Representatives, and tell them to vote down these voter suppression efforts, these voter suppression bills, so that Georgia can have a representative democracy where everybody can participate in the exercise of the franchise. So I'm Attorney Gerald Griggs with the Atlanta NAACP, and I am imploring you to push back, to say no on Jim Crow type voter suppression activities that are happening. We are going to continue to march on. We're going to make sure we make Georgia a better place, and we're going to make sure we push back on all of these bills that want to take us back to a far gone era. We voted. We will continue to vote. We will continue to elevate our voices, and we will continue to use some of the most fundamental rights that we have, the right to protest, the right to the free exercise of the franchise, and of course, the right to our representative democracy. So join us. Make sure you keep marching. Make sure you put your shoes on, because we got to go somewhere and we got to talk to some people and we got to get this done. It's Attorney Gerald Griggs, Justice Fighter. Let's keep marching.